Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Tougies Take podcast. We are back again after a devastatingly sad weekend in the world of hockey. And we're going to talk all about it, especially Endo and I. We're going to talk through our emotions here today, and Sin is here to either try to make us feel better or laugh at our misfortunes. I'm not sure yet.
I'm not sure either. We'll see how it goes.
That's what friends are for, right? It's like, well, I might make you feel better. I might twist the knife a little bit. Yeah. You know, what's it going to be? What's the in-between? But gentlemen,
that's what friends are for.
God, and no, I'd ask how you're doing. I know. We're feeling the same way right about now. You're probably feeling a little bit worse, and again, we'll talk about it in a little bit. But Sin, how was your weekend as a neutral, as an innocent bystander watching the carnage? How was your weekend?
Exciting hockey. I got to enjoy some exciting hockey. Not gonna lie. I mean that Calgary Dallas Game 7 was wild. Jake Ottinger's a beast. Other than that, I've really been enjoying the last couple of years watching playoff hockey without having a horse in the race. It's kind of nice. It's kind of freeing. I just get to enjoy hockey. And man, if I wish there was a way to do that with the Sharks, but I just care too much about them. It's you know what I mean? Fuck.
That's really what helped soften the blow for the Bruins there a little bit was, being able to watch other games and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
For what it is. But again, we have a lot to discuss today, so we are going to kind of get right down to it. No viewer questions. Hopefully those will come back later on this week when we will, in theory, have less to talk about. But before we get going with the topics at hand, again, as always, this podcast brought to you by our lovely friends at Manscaped. You can use code Tougie at checkout for 20% off your order and free worldwide shipping. Again, that is code Tougie at checkout. Tougie. It's in the name of the podcast. You should know this at this point. And again, the only thing that we can say, it's getting to be that time of year. It was nearly air conditioner season for me here, and that's right. It's Maine. Most places, indoor air conditioning. What the hell's that? They said for years, even up to the 70s and 80s, and it's torture. It's pure torture. It was very close to that. And when it's being that, when it's that hot, you gotta take care of certain things. Gotta help cool down the body temperature a little bit. You're hitting the beach. You gotta look your best. I got nowhere else to go with this because I'm still a sad boy from the weekend. It's circular deodorant and all the other lovely things that you can get at Manscaped.
I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I have two Manscaped products and they're fantastic. I have the lawn mower and the weed whacker, and they're both terrific. The weed whacker is the more reluctant investment because you don't want to reach that age where you finally have to trim your ear and nose hair, but here we are. You've reached that age.
I haven't gotten to ear hair territory, but nose hairs, it's getting there. It's not like, Grandpa Pickles in the Rugrats territory. Where I'm pretty sure there was an episode where the kids were imagining that they were swinging off of his nose hair, it was.
Why do
like
I
it was
randomly
a jungle?
Remember that?
Like vines in a jungle or some shit like that. Yeah, it's pretty gross. In hindsight, it's pretty gross. But look of disgust.
I need a
on
minute.
Endo Mill's face.
That's gross.
Rugrats.
That face is going to be the thumbnail of this episode. By the way,
Rugrats was incredible. You think back.
It was a hell of a show,
and you're like, why was Angelica such a bitch? Oh shit, her mom might have been an alcoholic.
Because mom was a hoe.
Have you ever seen Manscaped.com, by the way, code Tougie? Have you ever seen the super weird the freaking what the hell? It's not copy pasta.
Oh, the conspiracy theories and how it's
the spooky story conspiracy.
And all the demons over brainchild and whatever. I'm obviously butchering the crap out of this, but yeah.
Right. Basically, there are oh god, was it a creepypasta or some shit like that? That's what it's called. And basically, people have them for everything, but the Rugrats especially. And the one that always caught on that makes me laugh every time is that Angelica has made up all of the other kids in her mind. because of her horrible life with her alcoholic parents and like Phil and Lil, the twins. Really, the parents had a miscarriage, so Angelica's like, well, I can't decide if it was going to be a boy or a girl, so thus it's Phil and Lil, the twins.
You can't choose, so it's both.
Oh my god, and it's like Tommy was born out of like fetal alcohol syndrome, which is why his head's shaped weird. Oh god, so yeah, if you
I forgot about that.
if you guys haven't looked that up and you want a great laugh, that might be, in terms of like funny internet nonsense, the Rugrats Theory creepypasta is my favorite thing, right next to the "Does Bruno Mars is gay" article.
It does this happen.
Those are my two favorite things, and so you look confused by that. And what that is for the Bruno Mars thing is a computer-generated article about whether or not Bruno Mars is gay.
I love AI-written articles. Have you seen the AI-written obituary?
No, but here, you know what? You know what? In lieu of viewer questions, allow me to read to you all from 8 years ago, the majesty known as "Does Bruno Mars is gay?" Bruno Mars is gay is the most discussed in the media in the few years ago. Even it has happened in 2012, but some of the public still curious about what is actually happening, and to be the reason there is a rumor come out about his gay. At the time, he became the massive social networking rumor.
He's gay.
The public, especially his fans, are shocked. He just came out with his bad rumor, which spread massively. This time is not about his music career, but his bad rumor. The rumor is out of standardized of hoax. According to the last reported, this singer revealed himself as homosexual. Do you still believe or not? This rumor is really much talked about by people, even in a person of his fans. Oh, God.
So
The internet
Tougie
is an amazing place.
Bruno Mars is gay?
It is have to know. Oh, God. I had to look up the Rugrats theory, by the way, too. And just, I'll let you read more about it, but here were the big things. Chucky died in 1986, along with his mother. That's why his dad's a nervous wreck all the time. Oh, God. Tommy was born in 1988, but he was stillborn. That's why Stu is constantly in the basement making toys for the son who never had the chance to live.
Goodness gracious.
Who writes this shit? Who does? And then, yeah, the DeVille thing. God damn it. How did we get here?
Okay, hold on. Since we're on this topic, I'm going to read you the AI-written obituary.
Oh, God.
Because it's fucking brilliant. All right.
Okay.
Brenda Tent retired from living at the age of old. surrounded by family and natural causes. A librarian from birth, Brenda was an avid collector of dust. She had a sweetheart and married her high school. She loved having hobbies and helping her sons to be disadvantaged youths. She had no horses but thought she did. The church gave her a choir because she sang like a bird and looked like a bird, and Brenda was a bird.
She was a bird.
She owed us so many poems. The funeral will be held in 1977 at Heaven. In lieu of flowers, send Brenda more life.
I forgot about this. I haven't heard of this. I haven't heard that in a long time.
It's impossible to choose a favorite line out of that. It's literally impossible. Because holy shit.
She looked like a bird. She sang like a bird. Brenda was a bird is my favorite. If you were wondering why the episode title was Brenda's a Bird, now you know.
She didn't have any horses, but she thought she did.
Reminds me of How Was Babby For? That old meme. Old meme. Holy crap. How was Babby formed? How girl get pregnant?
All right.
I am sorry for your loss.
Yeah, everybody, this is a hockey podcast. Manscaped.com. Use code Tougie, use code Brenda. Before we get to the playoffs, two major things happened today, gentlemen, and they both revolve around the head coaching positions for two different teams. And we will start off, Sin, with the news out of Vegas as the Vegas Golden Knights have fired head coach Peter Deboer after 3 seasons with the team. They also let go of assistants Ryan McGill and Steve Spott, which I knew would bring a lot. Explain Steve Spott and his reputation for those who haven't gotten to experience him as a coach.
Steve Spott has the shittiest power play on the planet Earth, but he's kept afloat by stretches where it does good. That's it. He has the worst power play, but stretches it does good. Like I think in the last year before he retired, there's a nice little month stretch when Carlson was crushing it on the power play, and then of course the 4-goal thing against Vegas. He is the worst power play coach on the planet, and Peter Deboer just keeps him around. He just follows Peter. He's got some kind of blackmail on Deboer. That's the only explanation.
So Deboer had 1 year left on his deal with his time in Vegas. So we don't know, obviously, if he'll look to take a new position. But with his time in Vegas, he went 98, 50, and 12 in 3 seasons. Of course, he replaced Gerard Gallant in January of 2020.
Had a better winning percentage, by the way.
So the Peter Deboer move in general is still one of the most questionable things I think I've ever seen.
It is. It's so weird. It's so weird that Vegas did that. I don't understand it.
They lose to the Sharks in the playoffs. There were players for Vegas mentioning him not being well liked, and then they sign him. It's completely bizarre. I genuinely didn't understand the move in the first place. Yes, they had the winning record at the time, but I don't know. It could have gone better, but how else was it really going to play out?
I don't know. I just think what's impressive to me is that the Sharks got him fired twice. That's great.
Fair that they did. So in terms of coaching, and we'll talk about the other move really quickly, but Deboer is now the 4th head coach to be fired since the regular season ended following Jeff Blashill in Detroit, Mike Yeo in Philadelphia, and of course Barry Trotz by the Islanders earlier this month. The Jets are still looking. Chicago's still looking as well. Of course, they have interims and potentially not sticking around. The other move is that the Islanders did make their hiring, and it was an internal hiring. Lane Lambert is the new head coach of the New York Islanders. He has been an associate under Barry Trotz for the past 4 seasons with the Islanders. He was an assistant to Trotz on the 2018 Cup-winning Caps team, and really was just kind of the Barry Trotz understudy. He's 57 years old. This is his first coaching job. Has head coaching experience and assistant coaching experience in both the WHL and the AHL between 2002 and 2011. And since 2011, Nashville, Washington, and the New York Islanders. He has been basically Barry Trotz's right-hand man the entire time. But what happened the last time Barry Trotz was fired and a team hired their understudy, his understudy? That was Todd Reirden and the Washington Capitals, and Caps fans will tell you, holy hell, was that an awful, awful time. So, look, this might work out better than that, but I don't know. I mean, Todd Reirden lasted a season and a half? I believe a season and a half. So, again, for Vegas, you talk about who might be hired. I know, obviously, Sin, you saw this. Barry Trotz's name being thrown out a lot, and that
they're gonna get. I
feel like would be a tremendous fit. But there's someone who you think Vegas might go for.
Absolutely, they'd go for Quenneville because, of course, they would. I honestly they should go for Trotz, but I would not be surprised that they go for Quenneville. Maybe it's just my own disdain of them, but I would not be surprised if they would go for him. They don't give a fuck. They've clearly shown that they don't give a fuck about anything besides winning. They don't give a fuck about player loyalty. They don't give a fuck about being loyal to coach anyone. Anyone. They would do it if they thought that he could, help them win. And yeah.
U-Tree's video, that being urinating tree, for those who do not know.
Great video.
He just put out a video over the weekend about the history of the Vegas Golden Knights, and literally how they personify Vegas and essentially a gambling addiction perfectly. Just the idea of excess, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. So make sure you check out that video if you haven't. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who the hell knows who they go for with their new head coach? It's so weird. The Deboer move, going as poorly as it's such a weird time. The hiring in the first place, firing him after 3 seasons. I mean, I can't say it's the wrong move. I don't think he was the right head coach for that team. And then the Islanders kind of playing out what failed in Washington. Lane Lambert might work out, but odds are against him. It's a weird time for teams like Vegas and the New York Islanders. Mm-hmm. Both missing the playoffs this year, and these changes as a result. But wanted to touch up on that. Again, super, super weird stuff with Vegas, but that's Vegas's MO. We will get into talking about the playoffs, though. The Stanley Cup playoffs, because the first round, gentlemen, has come to a close, and in rather dramatic fashion. I want to start off, though, in talking about this Western Conference series, Edmonton and Los Angeles, because, Sin, you predicted that LA would win this series in 7, and you were very, very close to being right. It did go to Game 7. The Oilers do win that game 2-0. Mike Smith with the shutout, so fair play to him. In this series, Connor McDavid becomes the second player in NHL history to record 6 multi-point games in a series.
Ridiculous.
He is the first to do it since 1983. Obviously, we'll talk about Edmonton.
Were those the Islanders' years? 83?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that was the Islander Cup winning year. I'm not sure who put that up, though. I didn't see actually who.
Interesting. I would love to see.
Had those numbers on their side. But yeah, McDavid finishes round 1 with 14 points in 7 games. LOL.
Mike's off.
Wow.
There you go.
Unreal.
So we'll talk more about Edmonton in a moment. But Sin, you predicted LA might be able to pull this off. What are your thoughts now on the Kings and how this series went?
Honestly, it was kind of how I expected. They're going to have the games where they're going to get blown the fuck out because Edmonton's Edmonton. But Edmonton is also Edmonton. They're super inconsistent. A team like LA had a chance to win it, and they did. Game 7. They couldn't find the back of the net. Mike Smith played good. Connor McDavid was on another level in that game. He simply was on another level. And God, I think it was Jay Fresh who put together a couple of videos of just all the touches and like important touches that McDavid had on the night. He's just like, it's absolutely electric. If you think about it, all the time when he's showing, that's 4 minutes total of time that McDavid's being an absolute difference maker. So like that's at least 1/5 of his ice time that he's being an absolute difference maker. That's incredible, from a hockey standpoint. The Kings, I think, shocked everyone. This was like my throwaway pick. Like really, I was like, yeah, Kings in 7 because it'd be funny as shit. And I'm closer than I thought I would get. And I got so close I wanted it to be true. But good for McDavid going to the second round. And unfortunately, probably won't see him request a trade now. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my thought with the Oilers is that I got to be honest, for Oilers fans, I mean, hey, I'm happy for you. Like, again, to not waste a player the caliber of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl is obviously a positive, but long term, this might mean that Ken Holland stays at the helm. And I don't think that's what's best for your team. I might be proven wrong. You guys might be raising in the cup a little bit over a month from now. We'll see what happens. I mean, Jay Woodcroft has certainly worked out very well as the head coach of this team, though. So they got that going for them. For the Kings, wanted to kind of talk about what's next for them. And I don't think it's necessarily a conversation with negative connotations. They were playing with house money.
Yeah.
They probably should not have made the playoffs this year. Certainly helped out by Vegas struggling the way that they did. And the inclusion, obviously, of the Seattle Kraken in there. Although I'm actually not sure what their record was against the Seattle Kraken. But all in all, we look ahead for the Kings. You lose Dustin Brown to retirement. Kind of sucks. Not as big of an impact player on the ice as he was. There was that time where he was peak Dustin Brown, and then he started to dip, and it's like, man, he's going to fall off. But then he had that resurgence. You got those few extra years out of him. Unfortunately, it was at the same time where the team was kind of falling off.
Yeah.
But they have all their draft picks. They have a good young team. In terms of like Andreas Athanasiou, Alex Edler, Oli Mata, and Troy Stetcher are their biggest UFAs. RFA-wise, Adrian Kempe is going to get paid, and rightfully so. I mean, he was a big-time performer. Like, they don't have this... do I want to use arduous, for lack of a better term? It's not a difficult path for them moving forward. No. Like, they're still on course with this rebuilding, with this retooling. You do have the question of, like, okay, Jonathan Quick, how much longer does he have? 904 save percentage in this series. But I don't know. If I'm a Kings fan, I'm nothing but optimistic moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not be? Honestly, what's next for LA? Stay the course. Because what you're doing is working. You made the playoffs. Oh, sure, maybe you don't get as early of a pick as you might have preferred, but you're already pretty. You got Byfield. You still have Turcotte. That's a big question. Mm-hmm. What are they going to do with Turcotte? He hasn't quite panned out yet, and I'm wondering if they look to use him as a piece in something to grab.
So that's what I was going to bring up, right? Now, Turcotte's only 21, by the way. Yeah. Like, his birthday was in February. He just turned 21. This is a team that already has a lot of pieces that it's like, if you make the right choice and you ship out the right pieces to get better, you're right there. You could say the idea of like, well, hold on to everybody, make sure you have the best of the best, but they're in a position where, they could probably afford, especially with some of those forward prospects. Mm-hmm. Here's who they have listed in the minors for forward prospects. Alex Turcotte, Jared Anderson-Dolan, Sam Fogamo, Akil Thomas, Tyler Madden. Obviously on the back end, guys like Jordan Spence are in the mix. They have a ton of pieces to play with, to shuffle around, make some moves if they have to. Even if, like, free agency, the big thing has been like, oh, Philip Forsberg, will he reunite with Victor Arvidsson? They can afford it. And then, hey, move on from a forward prospect and, recoup draft picks, move those prospects to get a player. I think they're in a very, very interesting spot. It's just how aggressive is Rob Blake going to be in terms of risking some potential futures to really push this team forward. I think maybe it depends on his optimism about maybe Jonathan Quick being the guy. He's got 1 year left after this, 36 years old, and they don't really have a clear, concise answer on who the guy is in net, because I don't think it's Cal Peterson. Although Cal Peterson would disagree, and so would Rob Blake, because Cal Peterson has a new contract kicking in starting this upcoming season. 3 years at a $5 million cap hit.
What?
Yep. I had no idea that was a thing. That was signed in September of last year.
Huh.
He's going to be making $5 million a year for the next 3 years, so they feel like they're set up goaltending-wise. He had an .895 save percentage in 37 regular season games this year.
Okay, I don't understand that. Maybe he had a good stretch at some point to earn that. I think he did for a while, and I'm pretty sure LA was really excited about him for a while. But yeah, those numbers aren't too good.
Yeah, I mean, it was him and Campbell kind of competing for like who's going to take the throne away from Jonathan Quick.
Campbell, huh?
Yeah, that's that.
Well,
they
could trade Peterson and they could grab back Campbell because he's the free agent this year, offseason. So
there you go, reunite them. So again, all in all for the Kings, I think they're looking good moving forward. I have said it for almost every team, but again, a very intriguing offseason coming up with how aggressive they choose to be. A lot of pieces that they could potentially move. We'll talk about another Western Conference first-round matchup that came to an end. This one last night. The Calgary Flames beat the Dallas Stars in Game 7, 3-2 in overtime. Johnny Gaudreau showing up when he was needed. If you look at that Flames roster and say who needs to score an overtime Game 7 goal more than anyone else, it was Johnny Gaudreau.
Yeah.
And the reputation he has for not being a playoff performer. However, he was not the star of the show. Not even close. The Flames in this game outshot the Stars 67-28. The largest shot differential in the history of Game 7s. and the second largest differential in playoff history.
Can I guess what the first differential was?
I don't even know. I couldn't find the stat.
You know what? I think I know which one it is. It was Calgary Flames versus Detroit Red Wings. And Calgary, I think, one team had 54 shots, the other had 11. But the team with 11 shots won 1-0. And I'm 100% sure that it was Calgary versus Detroit in the playoffs in like a first round matchup.
I'd believe you.
And that would seem like that's the biggest differential, just because differential wise and math wise.
I am trying to find it. That stat was posted by Sportsnet Stats, and oddly, they didn't follow it up with what the largest one was.
That's annoying.
Which is very, very unlike them to do that. But
damn.
In goal for Calgary, Jacob Markstrom finishes with a .943 save percentage and a .153 goals against average. For the Dallas Stars, Jake Ottinger finishes the series with a .954 save percentage and a .181 goals against average. For Calgary, Coach Sutter ties the record for most Game 7 wins with 8, which is ridiculous. And Calgary, a funny little stat, also wins the series in the first round for the first time against the team not named the Vancouver Canucks for the first time since 1988. For some reason, they make the playoffs. They always play Vancouver in round 1. And it was mentioned, like, oh, what's the key? What's the key? And I saw a Flames fan respond, yeah, all we had to do to not have to play them was merge with them. Tanev, Markstrom, think of all the Canucks that were brought over. So, we'll talk about Edmonton and Calgary in a moment. The Battle of Alberta is inbound. But I want to talk about what's next for the Dallas Stars. At the very least, you drafted Jake Ottinger in the first round a few seasons ago to be the guy. Confirmed, he's the guy.
But who else are the guys?
So, in goal, right? Like, Wedgwood's a UFA at the end of the year. Holtby's a UFA at the end of the year. Bishop is gone. And Khudobin has 1 year left at, I think, $2.2 million if he's buried in the minors. Otherwise, it's 3.3. So likely it's Ottinger and probably Khudobin, unless he's bought out, but probably Khudobin as the backup next year being given a shot. Ottinger's the guy. He's an RFA, as we talked about on the last show, right? Like, he's going to get a bridge deal probably worth $3 or $4 million a year, I would think. And then if he keeps proving it, you might be looking at fucking Bobrovsky money, for God's sakes. But everything else for Dallas is a mess. It's a mess. Like, Rick Bowness has to be fired as the head coach of this team. You could talk about, like, oh, he didn't get that much out of his team. Maybe. But at the same time, just that super defense-first style. And then, again, to his credit, like, he got the most out of that roster because, again, that roster was absolutely horrific.
Yeah, but at the same time, Seguin and Ben were awful. I don't know if that's just on them or if that has in part to do with the system. I mean, what kind of system would Seguin look good in? Wasn't he? He was literally traded from Boston because he wasn't one of their guys, quote unquote. And I looked at that Boston team, played kind of similar style to what Dallas does now. Defensive, but they're more physical, forechecky too, because they, had it. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely think a new coach is needed because you're not getting rid of those contracts, especially after a year like this year with Ben and Seguin putting up the numbers they put up. So you got to find a different coach to allow them to get back to where they are. Because if you have two good lines, then you're cooking with gas. But I don't know how good their system. Like they have such a weird team. They have all these guys who are coming into their own, but then all these other guys who are just completely declining.
Pavelski led the way with 6 points in 7 games. Big issue for them. Rupe Hintz was injured and did not play in Game 7. Yeah. Seguin actually had 4 points in 7 games, but Jamie Benn only had 2. When Jamie Benn has as many points as Yanni Hakanpää, I view that as an issue. Especially when Ben and Seguin both still count for at least $9.5 million. Ben for 3 more seasons after this, Seguin for even more.
Yeah. I don't have to pay much sales tax either.
massive issues for them.
State tax.
Radulov's 6.25 comes off the books at the end of the year. I cannot imagine he will be brought back. He only played in 3 games and had 0 points. Like, he's, at least in that Stars system, he's cooked.
Yeah.
They have some other deals coming up. John Klingberg, probably the most notable one. So they're not totally screwed. Like, they have draft picks, they have cap space, they do still have some younger guys. I mean, obviously this season was the big-time emergence of Jason Robertson, but I think they're in that weird spot right now, almost like we kind of thought Calgary would be once again if they were to lose, where it's like, okay, what direction are you going to go here? And unlike with Calgary, your biggest problem contracts and problem players, yeah, they can't just walk away to free agency and have the problem solve itself. You're locked into those deals. So, to answer the question of what's next for Dallas, hell if I know, man. Hell if I know. Get a new head coach. You might even need a new GM there. I don't know how Stars fans feel about Jim Nill at this point, but he has been the GM there for 9 years. Jim Nill has been the GM for long enough that the Dallas Stars were still using their old logo when he was brought in as GM. Like the Madonna era logo, they were still using that logo when he was brought in. You need a new vision there, desperately. So if I'm a Stars fan, that's what I'm rooting for. Similar to a Bruins situation, new GM, new head coach. You need new voices and a new vision for that team. I get it, Cup final a couple years ago, the first one that Tampa won, but that team just, I mean, again, when you're relying on, Marian Studenick played 4 games without a point. Denis Gurianov had 5 games without a point. Luke Glendening obviously only played the 6 games. There was that big hit in Game 6. I can't help but look at it. Michael Raffl outscored Jamie Benn. I think that sums up how the playoffs went for the Stars.
Yep.
So that brings us to our first second-round matchup that we wanted to talk about, and it is the Battle of Alberta. For the first time in the playoffs since 1991, Edmonton and Calgary. And this, thank God. No disrespect to Kings and Stars fans, man, but holy hell, if we got if we got LA and Dallas, that would have been such a bummer.
Say, imagine that series. Good Lord, yeah.
I don't want to.
It's gonna be just 2 teams throwing it back and forth from each other's blue lines.
God, if I run out of melatonin, then I'll imagine that series. Okay, holy God. So. How, Endo, I want your opinion of this because, again, Canadian hockey fan, and here we go. This is it.
Hey, boys.
These are, unless I'm forgetting someone, these are the 2 Canadian teams that are left.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this series? I mean, for the Flames, is it just a matter of, okay, they ran into a hot goalie, and now it's like, well, it's Mike Smith, although Mike Smith had a .939 against the Kings in those 7 games. And how do you feel about this series, and just, I guess, general thoughts, and who you think might win it?
I think it's going to be really, really high scoring. Both of these offenses are dominant completely, especially because McDavid's having, basically 2 points per game. And you have Goudreau, and you have the Tkachuk. I keep thinking it's Brady, but it's Matthew Tkachuk. I was super confused, actually, because I saw Brady Tkachuk was in the crowd. I was like, wait a second, you shouldn't be on the... Wait, there's another one. My brain is super confused. It was good to see that. But I think it's going to go in favor of Edmonton. I think it's their time. I think they're just going to pull through. They seem to be playing a little bit better than they have before. I'm glad that they got through the second round, because Jesus Christ, it would have been really, really boring to see LA go up against Calgary. It would have been just not fun to watch. I'm thinking it's gonna be a big series out of Matthew Tkachuk as well too. He's been playing well. I'm glad that Goudreau got that goal at the end there to win it. And yeah, I'm thinking just Edmonton's gonna probably take it though. Goaltending aside, I think Edmonton is just going to go through.
Send your thoughts, because, I mean, it's funny. You look at these rosters, and, yeah, on paper, Calgary probably has the goaltender that you'd prefer to have. Defensively, both teams maybe have some issues. Offensively, maybe it's kind of even. Like, McDavid really does appear to be the biggest X factor, and is that enough for you to kind of lean towards Edmonton in this series?
If Calgary had won their series in a reasonable amount of time like they should have, I would have been all in on Calgary. But now it's more of a question mark for me in this scenario. But that being said, Ottinger was also a goddamn beast. We saw Calgary able to defend as well as put forth a ton of shots. Can they contain McDavid is really what it comes down to. I think they can.
Yeah, because Edmonton can't defend like Calgary.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but I cannot imagine Mike Smith holding up like Ottinger did under that much sustained pressure.
I don't think so either. As good as his numbers were, they were playing an LA team, which was pretty awful on paper, especially considering some of the injuries they had. And Edmonton was inconsistent in being able to score against them. Markstrom with that run with that Sutter, I still have to give it to Calgary, but I'm less confident now just from the way Calgary played against Dallas. I don't know, maybe they got goalied a little bit, but also you at the end of the day you got to fucking score, and you're now playing a team with a lot more offense who's going to be able to throw a lot more back in your face. So I still think Calgary is going to win, probably in about 6, maybe 7.
I don't know how to feel about this one. I really, really don't. This is a super, super tough series to predict in the podcast bracket challenge, which through round 1, I am currently tied for first place. In that bracket challenge, I chose Calgary to go to the Western Conference Final in this exact matchup. I look at Daryl Sutter. Say what you want about on paper. Calgary, in my opinion, has the better coach. They have the better goaltender. Everything else close to even. So it's really the coaching and the goaltending. Although the goaltending might be closer than we want. It's the coaching versus Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
Who's going to win out?
I think in a battle for Alberta, what you got to consider is how much shit is going to be going on the ice. Rough stuff. And then if you call too many penalties on that, they're going to be putting the whistles away on all the ticky-tack stuff on McDavid because they don't want to have that, I think that might be the case. And in that case, you can't shut down McDavid. Sutter's a fucking veteran-ass coach. He's going to realize that. He's going to recognize those situations and say, okay, back to the late 90s, early 2000s, boys. Clutch and grab.
Yeah, what I'm trying to look up right now
Is the head-to-head?
is how many penalties were called against LA in round 1 against Edmonton. And I want to see if I can find that for the sole reason of what was the situation for McDavid in round 1? And looking here, the Kings took 32 penalties in round 1. Oilers took 35. So it was called very even. It was called very, very even in round 1. Literally an identical amount of penalty minutes.
That's average of 4.5 per game. But we don't know if those are power plays either. They could be coincidentals and stuff like that.
Looking, it says no matching penalties, no majors, 27 minors on the Kings, 31 on Edmonton. Each team with a bench minor as well.
27 minors on the Kings. Oh.
Right. So the problem is, I think from series to series, obviously, you never know what you're going to get in terms of officiating. But you are right. Like, if you look at some of the more combustible elements, Milan Lucic, Brett Ritchie out there for the Flames, Zach Kassian.
Vander Kane.
I mean, God, who else would you put? Vander Kane's probably the number 1 combustible element in this series.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you make him lose his cool, whoo, McDavid's going to be spending more time worried about trying to keep him from fucking doing stupid shit, which is not where you want the greatest player in the NHL. That's right, I said it, Toronto fans.
I said the biggest X factor in this series was Connor McDavid. It's not. It's the officiating.
That's why I brought that up. It is the largest X factor.
Yeah. How is this called? How often is McDavid even out there in an even strength or power play situation? I don't know if I have a prediction for this. I think I'll just stick to my bracket prediction. We'll go with Calgary. I think I said in 7, maybe even 6. We got to do it based off of history, right? Like, how many times did we talk about last offseason, the number that was out there for how few times, how infrequent it is for infractions against Connor McDavid to get called in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm excited for this series, though. Certainly as a neutral, this is going to be a lot of fun.
This is the series I'm fucking watching. Like, I don't give a shit about Carolina and New York and shit. Like, fuck that. You kidding me?
The other Western Conference semifinal, of course, that we know of, and we've known about it for a couple of days now, it is Colorado and St. Louis. Again, the Avs fresh off of sweeping Nashville, what feels like 2 months ago, and St. Louis beat Minnesota in 6. I look at this as a potentially close series as well, despite the fact that the Avs swept the Blues in round 1 last season. I mean,
wow, they did.
They did. Yeah, I was very surprised. I had to double check that.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have happened. You look at the Colorado fucking locomotive here, the high-end offensive firepower, what Cale Makar can do on the blue line, goaltending as well, which I'd imagine Darcy Kemper is going to be back to 100% at this point. How is he not? Like, how hurt is... I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked it up. How hurt was he? If he's still not 100% healthy and ready to go, then, that could be the difference maker there. I'm trying to look up what the most recent word is on Darcy Kemper and whether or not he is fully healthy moving forward. But regardless, looking at what the situation is for the St. Louis Blues, it's a very good team.
Yeah.
It's a very good team. Jordan Binnington came back in the middle of that series and really started to get it done. Again, we talked about the lines. They can roll 3 tremendous lines. Right now on Cap Friendly, again, a reminder, it is listed as Shen, O'Reilly, Perron. O'Reilly and Perron were fucking incredible in round 1. Saad, Robert Thomas, and Jordan Kyrou. Bushnevich, Barbashev, and Tarasenko is listed as the 3rd line. How many teams can even match that? I don't think Colorado can't match that.
They're
Colorado's
a sneaky good team. Like, I don't think I've really given them the respect they've deserved throughout the course of this year. Like, that's a sneaky good lineup.
Colorado's top 9: Nichushkin, McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog, Kadri, Lehkonen, Burakovsky, Comfer, Obey, Kubel. That's not a bad top 9. I take the Blues top 9, though. In terms of consistency throughout, you might side, obviously, towards like the Nathan McKinnons and Mikko Rantanens of the world in terms of, okay, if you could have 1 or 2 players, who are the 2 you would take? So Colorado has the high-end skill, perhaps, but the Blues have that most consistency throughout the lineup, which is, I don't know, is that what you would want, or do you go to the Connor McDavid school of let the stars carry the team?
Yeah, here's the thing that I love about McKinnon and Makar, and why I think they would succeed in this sort of series. They don't necessarily rely on drawing penalties. They not that McDavid does, but like when he does, like he's a beast on the power play. Obviously, Colorado's a good power play, but McKinnon and Makar bulldoze their way through contact so often. I mean, look at what Makar does. He almost seems to seek out contact, breaks out of it with some miracle bullshit, and threads an insane pass across to someone in a one-time situation where you should never try to pass that.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I still want to go with Colorado, but I think St. Louis, as Colorado may be fresh, but I wonder if they're like out of their groove in Game 1 and they allow St. Louis to kind of strangle them.
That's always a factor, right?
Yeah.
Like how long of a layoff is too long of a layoff between getting healthy versus falling out of your rhythm.
Yeah.
Do you boys know the day that the Colorado series ended?
May 9th.
Correct. 1 week ago today, is the last time the Avalanche played a hockey game.
That's a long break.
It's a long fucking time.
St. Louis, what, 3 days, 2 days?
I think 3, maybe 4.
That's on.
So
then then the rest I would take what the St. Louis had, because you're more in the groove, I feel like.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Endo Mills, Colorado and St. Louis. How do you view this series going? Who's winning this?
It's very even, but I think Colorado's going to take it in 6. Just flat out. I got nothing to say on everything else. Just flat out. I feel like it's their time to also make it through. I said that about Edmonton, but it's their time to go through and get it done. They got so close a few years ago, and I think now they're just going to go through and take it.
As close as this series could be, the pressure's on Colorado here.
It absolutely is. Absolutely.
And I worry about that.
Yeah.
I worry about that a lot. You know, I mean, St. Louis, again, 3 years ago now, but still, a lot of the members of this team have won a Stanley Cup with this club.
And that was another
They know they're the underdogs.
Another situation. Yeah, well, that's another situation. They didn't have the pressure on them either in that situation.
Yeah, you're right. 2019, again, I mean, that's what pisses me off about 2019. If it was any other team other than the Bruins, God damn it. But just such an incredible run, right? Like dead last, and then they win the Cup. Insanity. And now, like I said, I wonder about Colorado, because obviously we're going to talk about Toronto here in a few minutes. Like, Tampa, as 2-time Cup champions, had no pressure on them in that series, because if you lose, well, you won 2 in a row. It was all down to Toronto to win it. Just like it's all down to Colorado here. It's like you have been picked as a perennial Stanley Cup favorite for the past 2 to 3 seasons now, perhaps not given a better chance.
Except by your own social media team.
Fair,
who are like, we're underdogs and shit. They fucking swept them. They're like, oh, who could imagine? Who could have imagined? Anyway, sorry.
It's fine. God. So, my heart says Colorado. You know, again, St. Louis has won recently. My heart says Colorado. But my heart also really does like this Blues team. And my mind is looking at this and saying, I had a real tough time picking against the Blues against Minnesota, and I'm still having a real tough time here.
Yeah. I had a really hard time. That's why I said Blues in like 6 or 7 against Minnesota. And they could. This is a situation where they could absolutely stump Colorado. It's the same thing. Like they may even be stronger than that Flames roster in some ways. Hard to say with certainty, but when you talk about that top 9, like, I don't know.
It's very similar to the Calgary-Edmonton thing. It is Colorado's star power, similar to Edmonton,
but I think Colorado
against what I think is a better
way more
overall situation like St. Louis and Calgary have.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm going with St. Louis. Just like I'm going with Calgary. Because you talk about star power and relying on it a little bit too much. I worry about teams where I have questions about your depth. Prove me wrong, but if McKinnon and Rantanen and Landeskog and Kadri, if they can't get anything going, are you going to see Obey Kubel, Darren Helm, Nico Sturm, and Logan O'Connor step up and deliver? I can't bank on that. I think St. Louis is going to pull this off. Again, no denying. You know, if you ask me, hey, what's the one defenseman you take in this matchup? You take Cale Makar. Who's the top 2 forwards you take in this matchup? Yeah, I'm probably taking McKinnon and Rantanen. But I'm going to go with St. Louis. I'm going to go against what I said in the bracket challenge. I'm going to go with the Blues. I was very impressed with how they handled Minnesota.
Yeah.
And maybe a similar situation there with Minnesota. I think Colorado has a bit more star power than Minnesota, but they were able to handle Minnesota's star power for the most part. You know, Kaprizov still had a great series. I'm going to go with the Blues on this one.
Fair.
So bring on the Colorado-Edmonton Western Conference Final, so I can be completely wrong. And I'll still be happy because McKinnon versus McDavid, oh, what a series that would potentially be. We'll shift over to the Eastern Conference. And we will start with Carolina and Boston. I'm looking to I set up the sheet in terms of intrigue instead of how it's listed on like NHL's bracket. The Carolina Hurricanes beat the Boston Bruins 3-2 in Game 7. It might as well have been 3-1. David Pastrnak scored with 20 seconds left. I talked about this matchup kind of in full on my main channel. Of course, the recaps I had been doing. So, make sure to check that out. So, I don't really want to sit here and reiterate a ton of the same points. But Max Domi scored 2 goals for the Hurricanes in this game. Max Domi is not the best player in the world, but he is someone that I was shouting from the rooftops that I wanted the Boston Bruins to trade for at the trade deadline. You heard me say it numerous times. The Bruins' glaring issue was up front and a lack of depth, and they didn't address it. They didn't get Max Domi. They didn't get Nick Paul. They didn't get Andrew Kopp. And it failed them. And Carolina won this in 7 games. And obviously now we'll talk about the Hurricanes in a little bit and who they're playing in round 2. I said it as much in that video. I can't take anything away from Canes fans. That's a hell of a team. That's a hell of a fan base and a hell of an atmosphere. And anybody hating on them comes off as just so fake. It's just the outrage over. It comes off as envious that a southern market can have a building that loud and a fan base that's that passionate. It comes off as you being envious, especially if you see, oh, where are you from? You're from Canada. Yeah, who do you root for? Why would you be envious? Or oh, you root for one of the original 6 teams. Yeah. So again, Canes fans, fucking enjoy the run. Spoiler alert, I don't think that run's ending in round 2. But yeah, I can't take anything away from that team, from the coach. I mean, it's fucking Rod Brindamore. What the hell am I going to say negatively about Rod Brindamore? But for the Bruins, again, they go from potentially getting swept, down 0-2. They do push it all the way to Game 7. The home team won every single game. But numerous times they went back and forth between being
sports.
Numerous times I went back and forth between being like, okay, it's not that bad if they lose versus, man, this is frustrating. And in the immediate aftermath, and even now, I'm still siding with this is incredibly frustrating to have lost this way. Again, Carolina had everything. They had the depth scoring. They had great defense. They had great goaltending. The Bruins had pretty solid goaltending with Swayman. Allmark, obviously, it didn't quite go their way. But there was that severe lack of depth scoring that absolutely crushed them. Simply put, your biggest need, you didn't address it. My biggest takeaway for what's next for the Bruins is, again, I would still like to see a new GM. I don't think Cassidy's a bad coach. I wouldn't mind seeing a new coach in there either. But a lot of this hinges upon what happens next with Patrice Bergeron. He is a UFA. He is 36 years old, and the retirement rumors are out there. Now, he has, today, in the Bruins exit interviews, essentially shot down an idea of playing for any other team.
Fuck you, Tony Amonte.
He's made it pretty clear. I mean, there's some players where you're just like, I don't know if I really trust that. For Patrice Bergeron, it really does seem to be either staying as the captain of the Boston Bruins or he's retiring. And yeah, he's obviously contemplating it. Otherwise, you would have shot it down by now. I can't fault him if he elects to retire. For everything that I've talked about, he is a future Hockey Hall of Famer. He has accomplished basically everything. He is the man. If he goes, I definitely want a new head coach and new leadership in there. And I say new head coach because, let's be honest, if there's a new general manager, the head coach is time. Like they're on borrowed time. That's how it works. Like the rare exception is Bruce Boudreau, who almost apparently wasn't brought back because, again, the GM that hired him is gone. So, well, I kind of want to name my guy, but smart move by Alvan in Vancouver because, you let go of Bruce Boudreau after a season like that. You're not exactly winning the good graces of your fan base to start off.
Or the players, probably, man. Like,
that too.
They obviously bought in.
They bought into that barbecue that Bruce was dishing.
They bought into that darn. It's one of my favorite gifs of all time, man. It's just him clearly saying fuck with all the passion in the world and just says darn on the screen.
So I don't know what happens next for the Boston Bruins. I really don't. I think, again, it all hinges upon what happens with Patrice Bergeron, but it all comes back to not making the most of Bergeron, Chara, Krejci, so on and so forth. 3 finals appearance, 1 win. That's better than what some teams get, that's for sure. But it is that feeling of it could have been more. If Bergeron comes back, no more of this half in, half out nonsense. This is what half in and half out gets you. If you have a clear issue, you go all in like Tampa and you fucking address it. If you try to win now but also protect the future, the odds are not exactly in your favor for success. So, Sin, your thoughts on the Bruins from the outside looking in?
Such a weird situation. Yeah, I think you're right, and it hinges on what happens to Bergeron, and that's kind of the path you have to take after that. If Bergeron goes, they got to start looking to move pieces. Marchand's got to be one of them. As much as that sucks, I'm sure, for Bruins fans, the man is on the sweetest of sweetheart deals for what he brings to the table. You don't have to incentivize. People should incentivize getting that contract and that player that Marchand is. He could get a lot of assets. But if you want to go the win route, I don't think that's the right move. The only reason I'd hope Bergeron retires is so that the Bruins go down that route, because you are stuck in a meat grinder of a division, which is not really getting easier, and you're getting thinner and thinner and thinner and older. If Bergeron stays, he's still 1 year older. So yeah.
Brad Marchand. any guess of the contract? This is you said sweetheart deal.
It's like 6.2 that he's making, and it's for 2-3 more years.
6,125 for 3 more years after this.
Boy, yeah, I mean,
he's 34 years old,
dude. That's what I'm saying, man. Like, if I'm Boston GM, and especially if Patrice Bergeron says I'm out, you could even consider trading Pasta, but because it's like,
that's
by
where
the time you turn things around, is he still going to be in his prime?
Yeah, I mean, Pasternak's 25. He's coming up on the last year of his deal, and he'll be a UFA. That's scary as fuck.
Yeah,
that's scary as fuck, man. I think David Pastrnak does like it here, but at the end of the day, you can like it somewhere and realize it's not the best situation for you in your career and your family. So, yeah, a lot of questions for the Bruins moving forward. And you kind of mentioned it. I think, it's funny to endo here. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Leafs coming up in just a few minutes. And for all the talks, if they need to blow it up, yeah, the Bruins and Leafs are in 2 drastically different situations. Like if you talk about it for the Bruins' perspective, you have Montreal and Buffalo and Ottawa and Detroit all on the come up. And if you hold on for too long when you shouldn't, it's going to take a long time to resurface after getting, having that wave crash over your head. But if you time it right, you can be on the come up by the time that some of those teams start hitting some interesting points. It's just there's so many different directions to go. And I'm sure I could talk about it all day long. But like I said, I covered it more in that particular video. Everything hinges upon what happens with Patrice Bergeron and where this team goes from here. So, what's next for them? I would say beyond every other team, we don't know. I would say they might be in the NHL right now. It's them and the team that we're going to talk about next who are perhaps in the most interesting spots where it's like, okay, just what the fuck is going to happen here? That other team is the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are fresh off of losing to the New York Rangers. They had a 3-1 series lead and could not seal the deal. They lose Game 7 4-3 in overtime. Artemi Panarin, the hero on that. Of course, in Game 7, Tristan Jarry came back. Probably shouldn't have. Granted, he gave him a chance to win in overtime. You had Sidney Crosby play after the is he concussed, is he not concussed discussion. A lot of Penguins fans are pointing out the helmet incidents. And again, if you're going to blame any sort of officiating, you're just going to look foolish at this point because literally every team has cause to say officiating fuck them, even if they won the series, for God's sakes. The Rangers became the first team in NHL history to come back as they did. Essentially, all 3 games, they had to come back in those games. And they did to win the series. That is Pittsburgh blowing it.
They fucking
Period.
Choked. Like, oh my God. Choke job. It was 3-1. And then how many multi-goal leads did you blow in the tuna games after that? Like 2-goal leads? And then in Game 7, you had the lead multiple times. You couldn't hold on. Horrible.
Yeah. So
you let a team with no depth do that. I can't believe it.
I get the idea of injuries. I get the idea that Louis Domingue is an AHL caliber goalie with no glove hand. Louis Domingue had a higher save percentage than Andrei Vasilevsky did in round 1. There's a lot that goes into that. But at the same time, you could have won that series. You should have won that series. There's really no other. Yeah. There's really no other way to put it.
When you get into
that, should have been a win.
When you get into blaming calls and wanting rule changes and shit, I laugh at you because that's what loser mentality is. I laughed at Vegas when they had that loser mentality, and their fans for blaming them giving 4 goals in 4 minutes on one fucking call. Like, if you look at the play, the helmet was ripped off. The Pens after that had a chance. They got possession and they had a chance to get the puck out. They didn't. It had nothing to do with the helmet bullshit. Like, Crosby, maybe Trouba could have got some supplementary discipline, but at the same time, that's the reason you have depth, so that your playoff chances don't hinge on one player. Like Crosby. You have Malkin for that reason.
And we talked about the Penguins' depth heading into that series, too.
We liked it.
As their biggest strength over the Rangers. And look, don't get me wrong. Like, I've done my fair share of complaining about, like, why the fuck is this a rule? We think back, 4 or 5 years ago, Tampa and Boston in round 1.
Same rule for everyone.
And Tuukka Rask loses his skate blade as a goalie, and Tampa scores. It's like, how the fuck doesn't play stop when a goalie loses their blade? But it was a moment like that just leads you and led me to just this point of indifference where it's like, this is going to happen. The rules are fucking stupid. The referee's incompetent. The league's fucking incompetent in general when it comes to rules, enforcing them, the DOPS. It's all this one giant ball of shit. And you can accept it for what it is, or you can continue to get frustrated by it. I eventually hit the threshold of just accepting this ball of shit being in the corner of the room while I watch the NHL. I might, and sometimes I'm nose blind to it. Other times it's like, boy, that fucking sucks. David Pastrnak getting headshotted in Game 7. But it is what it is. How many fan bases watching the playoffs can sit there and say, I feel like my favorite team had a player get headshot and it wasn't called? Dallas certainly feels that way with Luke Glendening. Again, it's just, that's what it is. That's what it is. And eventually you just got to hope to become nose blind to it because that fucking stench isn't going away. This is what the NHL does, and you just have to hope that you end up on the right side of it. So I agree with that take, Sin, that, blaming the helmet, no. And then, you know what? Even if so, you had other chances to win. Same thing with the Bruins. You had other chances to win. You gave up the first goal 6 out of 7 games. You lost all 4 games on the road. It's just one of those things. You can hyper focus on the calls, or you can focus what they can actually control.
Yeah.
And whether or not they did a good enough job in that moment.
They didn't. They blew way too many leads. You go up into a series 3-1. You better win it. You got 3 chances to win it.
So for the Rangers, obviously we'll talk about them. I did want to point out this stat, though. Igor Shesterkin did not allow a goal in any of the 5 third periods he played in versus Pittsburgh.
That's impressive.
Meaning Yeah, the Penguins got leads. And then in the third period, Shesterkin shut it down, and the Penguins couldn't hold on. That's how I view that.
Yeah.
I mentioned the Penguins, or alluded towards the Penguins perhaps being the most interesting team to watch now, aside or maybe alongside the Boston Bruins. The Penguins do have their first-round pick in each of the next 3 years. However, Evgeny Malkin is a UFA. He became the all-time leading scorer amongst Russians in the NHL playoffs in this postseason. Brian Rust, his deal is up. Talk about a sweetheart deal. He was only making $3.5. That deal is up. Ricard Raquel is going to be a UFA. Chris Letang is a UFA. They have some big, big decisions to make on what direction they're taking this team with a now 34-year-old Sidney Crosby still leading the helm.
How many years left is on Crosby's deal? 4.
Crosby has 3 years left, excuse me. He is signed through 2025. Don't have to tell you the cap hit. You already know what it is.
Yeah. He's fucking superstitious ass. Man. It's, for me, like, I think they've lost in the last 4 playoffs in the first round.
I believe you are correct.
Them and the Capitals have both lost in the first round for the last 4 years. Can you believe it's been 4 years since the Caps won the Cup, by the way?
Yes and no
I know.
at the same time.
Wild.
Yeah, the Penguins haven't made it to round 2 since 2018, where they lost to the Caps en route to Washington winning the Stanley Cup.
I think it's time you move. Oh, it sucks that both Letang and Malkin are free agents because you can't get anything back for them. But I wonder what Crosby would fetch. I don't think they'll ever do it.
No.
But and in which case,
he's the type of guy who will go down with the ship.
Yeah, he is.
1000%. He will go into the Mario Lemieux role of being the only guy on that team. Like, he'll play with Rico Fata Jr. I'm sure he doesn't care. Like, he's used to playing with fucking Mark Donk and Buzz Flibbit anyway, right? As the old saying goes. So,
yeah, I know, and it's just that's probably what they should do. But when I did my NHL 22 franchise, I literally kept Crosby like as long, I think the entire fucking time. He's playing at like 70 something overall, I think, but still putting up points and shit on the third line. It was hilarious. But yeah, it's a tough situation they find themselves in. They do have to blow it up, but you're going to blow it up, and you're still going to have Crosby like dragging that team to decent standings.
And is that what's best for the team?
It's not. So what do you do? I don't. It's an insane situation. I think they're gonna try to keep it going because you have to. Well, you have Crosby still, and Crosby's still a great player, but I worry about his injury history so much, man. And that hit from Trouba. The man was 100% concussed, and I think it's disgusting that he was allowed to play. I can't say 100%, but with his history and the way that looked and the way everything that followed after and the way the NHL seems to be completely ignoring this shit now, I mean, we saw the guy in the Dallas game. He literally got knocked out and that's why he slumped on his knees and went to the ice. He was allowed to finish that game. Concussion spotters are a fucking joke.
Too much is on the line.
I don't get, and that's
how they view it.
That's a rough fucking culture. Look at Ovi. Clearly needs shoulder surgery.
We can bring that up right now because I had it in our
know.
run sheet for later on.
I'm sorry,
so we're going to talk about
I went out of order, but it ties in.
No, it's okay. It perfectly flows into the conversation. So Alex Ovechkin did confirm that he had a left shoulder injury late in the season. It was that moment where he went shoulder first into the boards. It has to be. He won't need surgery, but he said this. And this shows you how fucked up it is. Mm-hmm. And, someone like Sin, I mean, hey, we're not sitting here like, trying to dissect Sidney Crosby's physical health for entertainment. It is out of a place of concern. We're not saying that we know better, but at the same time, it's not unreasonable to think that he was allowed to just push. Because here's what Alex Ovechkin said. Quote, "I hit the boards and hit my shoulder. But in the playoffs, I don't think it matters. If it hurts, you have some injections to do, and you have some, quote, magic pills."
Yeah, Kessler had a lot of magic.
Jimmy fucking Hayes died less than a year ago from a drug addiction stemming from his hockey playing career. It has just passed 11 years since Derek Bogard and the string of deaths in 2011 in relation to hockey culture taking its toll on guys like Derek Bogard and Rick Rippon and Wade Belak. And you have a star player in this league talking about, oh, you can get the injections and magic pills and push through. I'm not naive enough, and I said this on Twitter, I'm not naive enough to think that shit doesn't happen. But for a star player to literally just say like, oh yeah, we'll met ourselves up to the highest limit we can to push through for the playoffs, for the cup. You wonder why people are just like, yeah, Sidney Crosby might have been fucking concussed, and they're going to let him play because it's too important. You got to win games.
Yeah, and this is the part of the culture that sucks because they're like, where's the line? Like, there has to be, like, okay, they want to do it. It's their body. It's their fucking life. They want to do it. How do you stop them?
At the same time, you got to protect people from themselves.
Exactly. Sometimes. They don't necessarily know any better. I had this conversation. I'm not going to call him out on Twitter because we didn't agree on this, but it was a similar situation to this, and how he was like, oh, dude, I played hockey. You just push through it. That's what you do. You want to do it. And I'm like, yes, but you were brought up like that. You were taught that. We still teach that. Like, it's not safe.
To me, I am okay with that attitude for the player. I like the hunger because that's how you get to the top level of I am going to give everything. It is up to the other people in that set of circumstances to tell you when enough is enough. End of.
Yeah.
It is up to the league in this instance because a team will not give a shit. If Sid wants to push, who are we as the Penguins to tell him no? We're going to let him push. It is up to the league to do their job. If Alex Ovechkin's literally telling you that he's sitting here popping pills, maybe not popping pills fucking recreationally, but having to rely, and you could say, well, so many people are. Maybe that's a problem? That, you know, if you're having a star player like this, just be like, yeah, my shoulder's fucked, but I'm going to do whatever I can do to push through it. This, again, goes along with so many other things and how the NHL conducts themselves on and off the ice. It's fucked.
Yeah.
It's fucked.
It's not even just in the NHL. I've had instances on my hockey teams where guys are completely rocked, like flat out, just like they shouldn't be playing. And then because it's like a playoff push, they come back next week and they're up and at them. And you can tell their gameplay is a little bit off, but they're trying to get out there because it's, you know, it's hardwired into sports that the playoffs is when it really matters and that you should be putting it all on the line. But at the same time, how is this going to affect your longevity? Especially if you're a kid. If you're a kid and this happens to you, that could affect everything from how you do in school versus like your interactions with everybody else for the rest of your future. Like, let alone being older and having this be your actual job. Like, when you're a kid, it's your hobby. It's the thing you like to enjoy. It's the thing you're trying to do to get to the next spot in your life, which be it in hockey or be it for whatever. So it's really scary that this notion is still on top and being pushed down, that, you know, give it your all, even if it even requires like your brain being concussed or damaged. Like, there are times where I'll play a game in beer league, I'll hurt my knee. Like, I've had my knee injury for the past 3-4 months now. It happened during a game, and they told me, like, you got to keep it going. You got to keep playing because we don't have another goalie. So if you're gone, we gotta get someone else in that, or we got to play with 6 forwards. That's not good, especially even fucking beer league of all things too. Like, I'm still reeling from it now, but like it comes down to that whole mentality of just pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, not willing to take no for an answer.
Yeah, that's where I'm gonna. I think I slightly will differentiate with Tougie on this, is that I don't like the win at all costs mentality. I think it ties back into what we talked about a lot earlier in this podcast this year, with about some of the extra the off ice stuff that was going on, whether it was the Kyle Beach and all this other stuff. I think that sort of win at all costs, who the fuck cares, win. I think that kind of contributes to this, is that fuck your health. Like, this is a moment, you got to seize it. Take these pills, it'll be fine. look at Ryan Kessler. Like he's still living. Like, and he's, holes in his colon and shit like that from abusing the pain pills that they're talking about. Now, again, we don't know if Ovechkin's abusing it, but it's for me, it just says so much about the mentality and the culture around hockey that it's like he said that like it's fucking normal, and because it is. But it's been so sheltered, and it's always like, oh, well, the tough guys, they fight. Of course, they're in a bit more pain. Look, it's not just them anymore. Jimmy Hayes, now you got the biggest, potentially the best goal scorer in the history of the NHL, maybe at the end of his career, talking about it like it's nothing. Magic pills.
Yeah, like on an unrelated note, like not the concussions, but I remember there was a goalie who plays in the one of the lower Swedish hockey leagues. He was an idiot and decided to, in order to be faster, he decided to put a plated weight, like a weight, like one of those like plates for weights where you just like lift up, tie it to his chest, like tape it up. Then he hurt his knee. And this is like mid-season. His doctor told him either you wait it out and your season's done, or you take a cortisone shot in your knee so you can play. And he chose the cortisone. Like, the fact that there's still options given to players to get back in and do stuff, which cortisone has a longer effect, like in your joints and everything. You're putting something else not really naturally in your body, inside your body. It's going to fuck it up eventually. And then, like, at what point does that just become, like, the normal to you? They're like, oh, man, I got fucked up. I'll just get something in my knee or get something in my arms. That way I can kind of move and feel better. And then your longevity in the future, when you're older and having more different ailments or some sort of disease, could stem from that. Like, we don't know the full lengths of all these procedures being given to players.
I will say, with Sin, like I'm in the in between. Like, maybe it's just that I expect players to kind of have that opinion and that mindset, and to I still feel like so much of it is dependent on the players around them. Not only, of course, for like the problem is like it's the nature of the beast. Like, even if you educate a player on, well, here's the risk, here's this, here's that, people are going to be too short-sighted. They're going to be too afraid to lose their spot. Like, I just feel like it's too ingrained in the culture of professional sports of next man up if you can't get the job done, which is why you see players relying on this so much. It's a problem that, what is the solution to it? And I think it's certainly a gigantic discussion point that I wasn't expecting us to have today. I'm glad we did. But yeah, just in terms of how that plays out, it's just the idea, like I said, that I can't shake, of a star player just being like, yeah, fuck it, you do what you got to do. That it certainly doesn't help. I'll give you that. Wanted to talk though. Can you believe this? This started with us moving towards talking about second round Carolina and New York.
Yeah.
With the Rangers knocking out the Penguins. I said I wouldn't really trust New York until they get it done. But even then, like, I'm sorry. Like, I saw how much you struggled against Louis Domingue and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yeah. If this goes more than 5, then good on the Rangers, because I see Canes in 5 easily.
They're such a well-built team. They're just such a good all-around team, and their depth should absolutely smoke the Rangers. Shesterkin, again, is the X factor. But Carolina, they're just so good at, like, kind of scoring in whatever way possible. Like, you look at that Boston series when just the way the analytics played out, like the goals, expected goals and stuff like that, and how close that series was, but it didn't seem like that at times with Carolina just able to find ways to score constantly. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I think Carolina should have it, and I'd be surprised if New York does something, but yeah, it'll be on the back of Shesterkin if they do.
And Mills, your thoughts on how this series is going to go?
Yeah, I think it's going to go as far as, like Sin just said, like as far as Shesterkin's going to let them go itself. They're a good team. Andrew Kopp is going to score a bunch of goals and just rub the salt in your wounds about being a Bruins fan and not picking up at the deadline. And I don't know. It's going to be a tough series. for sure. That's all I'm saying. I don't know who's going to take it though. I want the Rangers to take it just because success, but I don't want Shesterkin being left basically hung out to dry every game and having to bail them out, a la Henrik Lundqvist.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of does feel like it comes down to whether or not Shesterkin can just steal the series, and he can, but, you know, it's... I don't know. That Pittsburgh series didn't do much to instill confidence in me that the Rangers can make this happen. If they do, hey, more power to them. If the Rangers make it to the conference final, I will fully believe you at that point, but until that happens...
If they go down
like
3-1 against Carolina, you're not coming back. Like, there's no coming back from that.
If they do, I'll fucking... I'll buy a Rangers jersey, even though I already have one. I'll buy a Shesterkin jersey if the Rangers fucking beat Carolina.
There you go.
Like, there you go.
Yeah, like, I think it's just the over-reliance of goalies itself and tiring out your goaltender. Like, you don't want to have him exhausted. You still got another, let's say, 21 possible games ahead right now. Don't tire out your goalie. Get it done.
The final two first-round matchups that we have to talk about here before we can wrap up this show, and obviously we got a little bit sidetracked with the larger conversation there, but again, fair enough, and it sucks because I feel like there's something else I wanted to say kind of in response to Sin, to be like, hey, I think we're closer to the same side of things here on that, but it is what it is. The Florida Panthers eliminate the...
Just kidding.
Yeah, fuck you, Sin. We don't fully agree. Get off of my show!
Oh, boy.
I'm the captain.
Florida Panthers... I am the captain now. Fuck you. The Florida Panthers eliminate the Washington Capitals in 6 games, winning Game 6 by the score of 4-3 in overtime. Carter Verhaeghe scored his 6th goal of the series because, LOL, he had 12 points in that first-round matchup, which was 5 more than the man who finished in second on the Panthers in terms of points, that being Claude Giroux, who had 7. Giroux, by the way, has now 30 points in 24 games as a Panther, dating back to both regular season and playoffs. The Panthers get their first ever, or not their first ever, but their first series win. I believe in Endo birth year for you.
98.
I thought so. This is the Panthers' first playoff series win in Endo Mills' lifetime.
Since
Congrats.
before you were born.
Oh my God. The Panthers as well.
Baba.
God, the Panthers as well, most impressively perhaps, they just won a 6-game playoff series without scoring a power play goal. They were 0 for 18.
Whoa.
I know. So that's a bit of an interesting little tidbit that their power play was that brutal. But obviously, again, we'll talk about the Panthers and what they have coming up. For the moment, we want to focus on the Washington Capitals because perhaps similar to the Bruins and similar to the Penguins, it's like, what direction do you want to go in? Again, I still think they have a good team. They have pretty much all of their draft picks. A lot of their core is still locked up, including, talk about sweetheart deals, TJ Oshie, under $6 million at 5.75. He had 6 goals in that series, apparently played with a broken foot. So, yeah, kind of goes back to the Ovi Crosby conversation, doesn't it?
Yeah. They did that. Mark Stahl did that, I'm pretty sure, back when New York was in the Cup against LA. I remember them talking about that, how they did something to freeze his foot, or I don't know. Some crazy.
Dude, Bergeron played in the Cup final with a hole in his lung, for fuck's sake. I mean,
oh yeah, huh?
Yeah. I think even as simple as, let me see, if I Google Patrice Bergeron lung.
How do you fix that shit? A hole in your...
Yep, June 26, 2013. Patrice Bergeron played in Game 6 with a hole in his lung.
A what?
Oh, let's see. So, this article is from Yahoo, and Greg Wyshynski, fun fact, 9 years ago. The magnitude and variety of injuries that the Boston Bruins center Patrice Bergeron played through are starting to make Gregory Campbell's broken leg seem like a stubbed toe. Already established, Bergeron suffered through a broken rib, torn cartilage, and muscle tissue, as well as a separated shoulder, which he injured in Game 6. GM Peter Chiarelli confirmed on Wednesday that doctors also found that Bergeron had a small puncture in his lung. From a Chiarelli quote, Bergeron was taken to the hospital following Game 6 where they discovered a hole in his lung. The team is unclear to when or how the lung was punctured, though it was likely from a needle as means of freezing the cartilage from his broken rib.
So that's what the F.
He got Tyrod Taylored, basically. Which is...
Wow.
like... Fucking A, man. Like, again, we could just dip right back into that whole conversation about the hockey culture of in that sense of the term hockey culture. But
merry-go-round at this point, yeah.
It would be. It's fucked is the summary, though. We all agree on that. That was the end point. It's fucked, everybody.
Yeah.
For the Caps, though, like I said, most of their core is locked in. It was kind of roles reversed. Vanacek was the better goalie in the regular season. Samsonov stole the goal in the playoffs there for the Caps. I think you just keep going for it, really. I mean, the underrated story is that, hey, we know Ovi had a shoulder injury, and yeah, you can tell he had 1 goal in 6 games. So I think they keep going for it. They have that core locked in of Ovechkin, Backstrom, Kuznetsov, Oshie, Mantha now. Just keep going for it. They'll be back again next year. I mean, people have said, this is the year they'll fall off, and it hasn't happened yet. Maybe it finally will, as a big Windows sound just came through, I think, from my side of things.
Yeah, I didn't hear
And
anything.
I have no idea why, so apologies for that, everybody. You ever have your computer make noises at you, and it's like, why did it do that? Because it doesn't tell you why it did it? Fun stuff.
Oh, I just turned
fun
on my
stuff.
system notifications. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm good.
There you go. So, final regular season, first round series to talk about. We had to save the best for last. The Tampa Bay Lightning win Game 7 over the Toronto Maple Leafs by the score of 2-2, if you ask Leafs fans. 2-1 was the final score. Nick Paul scoring both goals for the Lightning. Of course, this highlighted by the Justin Hall interference call for a basketball-style pick that got the John Tavares goal. You can't even say waved off. The whistle blew before the puck went in. For the Lightning, here are just some crazy, crazy stats. We'll talk about the Lightning in a minute in their second round matchup now with Florida, and then we'll talk about Toronto. Patrick Maroon, 13 consecutive playoff series victories now. 13 successful series in a row for Patrick fucking Maroon.
He's like
Andre Vass. Go ahead.
He's the luckiest guy on the planet, man.
Like, think about this, right? Like, Patrick Maroon's career. This is a guy who, obviously, like, you look back to his time with the Ducks, the Oilers, the Devils. This man played for the Devils. Who remembers that aside from Devils fans?
I don't.
16 games, 5 in the playoffs with New Jersey. I don't remember that at all.
Me neither.
It's fucking weird. And then he goes to the Blues, and now has, of course, spent the last 3 seasons on the Lightning and has committed to staying with the Lightning as well.
Even in Edmonton, you got to play with McDavid. Like, McDavid turned him into like a 30-goal scorer or something like that.
I have the stat here
30
in front
points,
of me.
yeah. 14 goals, 16 assists, 30 points, 57 games. That's pretty good.
Well, no, 16, 17. He played with McDavid too, didn't he? And he had 27 goals and 42 points.
Yeah. I knew there was a season in there where he had like a stupid amount of goals.
Yeah. So, as well,
Maroon with McDavid.
Oh my god.
Like, that's just the state of the Oilers at that point. It's fucking hilarious. All right. Anyway, sorry.
Andre Vasilevsky has now stopped 258 of 266 shots in 9 series clinching wins since 2020. That is a .970 save percentage in series clinching victories.
Ridiculous.
Holy shit. And then some of the numbers that talk about how close this series was. Toronto's expected goals for 22.9, Tampa's 22.2. Say what you want about expected goals for, but just, again, another way to look at it. The Leafs scored 24 goals. The Lightning scored 23. The Leafs had 216 shots. The Lightning had 215. And the Leafs here, now it depends on if you count the qualifying round, but the Leafs are the first team in NBA, MLB/NHL history to lose a winner-take-all game in the opening round of the playoffs for now 5 consecutive years. From JFresh, the probability of that happening is 1 in 27,778. The Leafs have now lost 10 consecutive games with the opportunity to close out a series in the Matthews-Marner era. The Leafs now have the longest cup drought in NHL history at 54 seasons and counting. Endo Mills, what is next for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Get rid of the old guys, call up the young talent, cycle them out in and out. You're done. I don't think there needs to be a giant shakeup that I'm seeing people call out for. I'm seeing guys who are like Habs fans, who are like Ottawa fans, teams that right now are kind of in shambles and don't really have an identity, telling me that the Toronto Maple Leafs need to shake up and fire sale and get rid of all this top talent and everything like that. No, it's clearly shown that it's worked. Like they went really far with this team that are back-to-back champions. I'm going to say that. I think right now they are in a good position to go from. Like last year, it was like you guys fucking blew it against the Habs. Now look where the Habs are. They're last. They don't have a goalie. They don't have Shea Weber. They don't have anything. Now it's you figured
the
out.
Disrespect to Sam Montembeault. Sorry, I had to.
Monson blow me, Jesus Christ! Like I'm just trying to.
We have a new episode title.
Yeah, I'm just trying to say the Leafs right now, they're in a very good position. Every Leafs fan's gonna be like, oh, they're a good spot. They are. We had the best regular season on record. We had really good production from the team in the playoffs. It's just that a lot of stupid decisions were made by certain players. Alex Kerfoot and Justin Hall are probably gone, or they are going to be crucified from day in, day out. We talked about this before when you're talking about this on stream. It's been like the defensemen or the scapegoats for this team were like Mike Komisarek, Jake Gardiner, Justin Hall. Now it's like who's it going to be next? Because I'm guaranteeing you those guys are probably gone in the offseason. If they are there, there's going to be a big like you make a mistake like at all during a year, you're gone by the trade deadline. I don't think they need to shake up that core. I really don't. People are saying, oh, get rid of this, trade Nylander and all that. I don't know. I don't know if I really want to get rid of them because they've produced completely. You have a Steele and Bunting who's going to get absolutely paid next year because he's on a 2-year deal. This is the second last year. So, and the next season, he's gone. He's going to ask for a goddamn raise because he looks like a goddamn star out there. Like, Calder candidate. Like, I don't know what they're going to do. Like, someone said that maybe they should put Morgan Riley up on the wing so they get rid of the chance for a winger and bring in a defenseman to the free agency. I don't know what they're going to do. I know right now they have to draft defensemen and goalies. That's what they need. Because they have Jack Campbell, who's gone. Technically speaking, he's not on payroll anymore. The backup for the goalies are Joe Wall, sorry. Chalgren, who's not going to be a starter. He's going to be like a backup. Trying to think what else. We just signed Dryden McKay to an AHL deal, which is great. We have Hutchison, that's awesome. We have Husso, that's awesome. Not Husso, but what's his name?
Hutton and Hutchinson are both UFAs.
Exactly. So they're gone. What are we going to do? I think Chalgren's going to stay. I think Wall's going to be there as well. Ian Scott, I don't think he's just too injury prone. I don't know. Like, it really makes you think about what the big key picture is. But I don't think them blowing it up completely is going to do anything whatsoever. If they lost in 4, you blow it up. If you lose in 7 in a close game with the way that it was, you say, you know what? We're going to keep it, and next year is the final year. Because you got so close. So close. And I know Hall is going to be the whipping boy because of what happened with that set pick play. And then people are going to look back into, last game there was this incident that happened with Matthews on Braden Point and nothing happened there. Okay, stop living in the past. Every new game is a new experience. I don't care if it's the same refs. It's a new game. Every face-off draws a new action. Every face-off activity is a new action. Every goal, every period, every intermission. It's a reset. That's how you have to look at every single game. as a reset.
So I look at this team and I completely agree. You don't blow it up. You don't get rid of any of the major pieces. My biggest takeaway from looking at the Leafs roster, yes, they have to worry about Mikheyev, Kasha, and Engvall or RFAs. Giordano's, his deal's up. You probably move Justin Hall. In goal, you got to move Peter Mrazek if you want any shot of keeping Jack Campbell. And they do have, all three of their first-round picks, and they'll probably have to give up one to get rid of Peter Mrazek unless the team really does them a favor. You still go for it. And again, my biggest takeaway is you look at this team, and I just don't think that Kyle Dubas has gotten it right with the proper supporting cast, the proper insulation around the stars. For as much as it was talked about, okay, Wayne Simmons only played 2 games. Kyle Clifford played 5 minutes of game 1, and that was it. So the idea of we're going to bring in this grit and toughness, you didn't elect to use it. Justin Hall had a pretty bad series, but, I look at the depth, and I get he plays hard, but Colin Blackwell, Kerfoot, Engvall, Kasha, that to me is not the proper insulation around the star players that they needed in the bottom 6, especially when you compare it to who Tampa has been running in their bottom 6, which right now on Cap Friendly, Tampa's depth chart is listed as Stamkos, Cirelli, Kucherov, Palat, Paul, Killorn, Hagel, Nash, Colton, Maroon, Belmar, Perry. And obviously that's shifted a little bit with the Braden Point injury. We'll talk more about that in a second here too. But, again, you're rocking Brandon Hagel on the third line. Ross Colton on the third line, who had a combined 9 points between those two in the first round. It just comes down to that depth. Leafs didn't have it.
Yeah, here's the issue, though. Their penalty kill unit, absolutely one of the best of the year. It's a power kill every time they're on the ice. Biggest issue is, do you get rid of any of those people? Because on that, it's David Kampf, Kerfoot, Mikheyev, and Marner. Mikheyev absolutely has the most shorthanded goals on the team. It is insane. When I saw him play back in March, I think it was, dude's just a phenom on the ice. Every single time he gets up there, he's gunning for it, no matter what. So you have to re-sign Mikheyev. I don't know if they're gonna find a good deal, if it's gonna be overpay or underpay. I don't think Mikheyev's gonna want underpayment. He already said before, I think earlier last year, he wanted to leave the team. He asked for a trade. And Dubas said, we want to keep you here. If you want, upgrade your value, all that. His value is looking pretty goddamn good right now. He didn't make a lot of big mistakes this playoff series. He didn't make a lot of mistakes. He was out there just grinding. Now, Engvall, I think he might be the first one to go. Might not get re-signed.
I'd let him go. Again, I think, especially too, if you move Kerfoot, there's the Mikheyev money. That way you keep Mikheyev in camp. And then, I'm sorry, I refuse to believe that you cannot find good, cheap options to fill out that bottom 6.
Exactly.
Whether it's internally with guys like Nick Robertson or from the outside looking in. I refuse to believe that they cannot find those players to sign for whatever amount. The problem is, you look and it's okay, you're signing Justin Hall to $2 million. You gave Peter Mrazek 3.8 in a gamble that has absolutely backfired. It's just the risks that Kyle Dubas has taken so far. It hasn't worked.
Yeah, I see. Mrazek being dealt for a first or a second.
You mean
if they somehow find the money to keep?
You mean with a first or a second, right? Because no one's paying a first or a second for Mrazek.
Yeah, I said with. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said 4.
No.
Typical Leafs fan.
We'll get a fourth. We'll get a fourth, or we'll get a future considerations for him.
You fucking take future considerations if you can get it. Fuck just
or to do back in the day, just give us cash instead. Those were crazy. Give us a printer. But
we'll take your finest fax machine.
Exactly. I think Mrazek's gone with a first or a second. You're going to have, if they somehow find the money for Jack Campbell, they're going to have him there. Then for goalies, they're going to use Wall and Chalgren, both interchangeably, just to relieve some play out there. Because Joe Wall has done well over in the Marlies. Granted, they didn't make the playoffs this year, but that team was just not cutting it. He looked good when he played here. He was at 3-1-0 record. Decent save percentage, honestly, for a rookie who's just kind of thrown in there. But that's what their goalie situation is going to be. When it comes to the defensemen, I don't know if they're going to be able to re-sign how much they're going to re-sign Lindgren and Sandin for, because their contracts are both up as well. They're RFAs.
Keep the team together. Go for it again.
Mm-hmm.
Just get the right pieces in place. Sin, your thoughts really quick on the Leafs before we talk about our final second round series and wrap up the show.
Yeah, for me, they shouldn't do anything, but I worry that they will. I'm talking about a drastic change. I worry that they move one of the core pieces out. They shouldn't. They absolutely should not. But fuck, dude, are they gonna they honestly may look at firing Dubas or Keefe or the Toronto media wants blood, and they always do. And in this situation, they're calling for it at the wrong time. And we've seen time and time again how willing the Leafs are to bend to what the media wants. And that's what I'm afraid of. I think the right move is not to make any major changes. Try to get better depth. Try to shed some cap while getting better depth. That's tough, but again, use your fucking picks. Get them out of there. You don't need to keep drafting in the early rounds. You have your young core. And yeah, that's my take on it, because and a little bit on the topic of the penalty kill, I think you'll be fine with Mikheyev and Marner as still core penalty kill guys. And you do not want to be relying on your penalty kill to produce offense, or saying that is that's why you want to keep certain guys there because they're great at producing offense on the penalty kill or stuff like that. I think there's plenty of good penalty killers out there. And you don't always have to have the strongest counterattack. You can have the threat out there, put Mikheyev on one unit, Marner on the other one. There you go. There's your speed threats to counterattack on the PK. I think they need more shutdown on the forward end. It's nice to see Matthews and Marner developing those two-way games, but they need an entire bottom six of guys who could do that. And when you Engvall, Kasha, those guys aren't guys who could do that. That's a third line scoring line, and you don't need that.
That brings us to our final preview here for the second round. The Sunshine State Showdown, as it's been called. We got the Battle of Alberta, and we got this. It is the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. One note here for the Lightning. Braden Point, of course, injured, has been noted as being doubtful for Game 1, day-to-day for the rest of the second round. But here's something interesting about the Florida Panthers, and I do not understand this. This comes from @5ReasonsSports, the number 5. 6 of the possible Panthers games are up against possible Heat games. The only exception is Sunday, which is part of a Panthers playoff back-to-back. It's almost as if the NHL is actively sabotaging this market. There was a response from a Panthers fan. Well, nothing is going to be better for a struggling South Florida viewership than scheduling our games at literally the same time as by far the most popular and successful franchise in the area for the last 20 years. A reminder, the Heat are playing the fucking Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Final in the NBA, and the NHL has scheduled those Panthers games to go head-to-head with that. Those TV ratings are going to suck because people are very likely, you're not going to get any casual audience. They're going to be watching the Heat, period. They're going to be watching the Heat. We've talked a lot today about the NHL and how backwards a lot of things are. And here's another example.
Their marketing is the worst. Absolutely atrocious.
You have a phenomenal team in the form of the Florida Panthers, similar to the Arizona Coyotes. You have a phenomenal fan base that is consistently told to jump through fucking hoops just to enjoy this team. Scheduling is shit. The arena locations are shit. Again, it only adds fuel to the fire of this misguided Southern bias that a lot of people have, where they view it as these Southern teams, getting favors to stick around, when in reality it's fucking amazing they're still here. Just based off of the challenges that they've had to overcome. So just incredible. So misguided from the NHL here. In terms of the series itself, who the hell knows who's winning this one? I don't have a goddamn clue, but I am looking forward to this. Holy hell.
The team based in Florida is going to win.
Sin, you are on mute for the moment here, and if you were trying to get a word in.
Oh, I am. Don't worry about it. I
It
forgot.
happens to us all, buddy.
At least it didn't happen to me during an ECL cast. Ayo.
Numerous times, actually.
Yeah, I was just saying that's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's gonna be. This is the one I want to watch, like as well as the like it's gonna be these two. I'm gonna watch the Battle of Florida and I'm watching the Battle for Alberta because they got the greatest narratives, and that's the way it fucking should be. NHL, don't schedule them at. Oh my god. Anyway,
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Sin, your take. Who's winning this? Who do you want to win? Is that an easier question to answer?
I
I'm
want
not sure.
Florida to win, just like I wanted the Leafs to win, but I'm not fucking betting against Tampa. Point's a big X factor. That injury looked gnarly. They're saying doubtful game 1, then day to day. I highly doubt he comes back before game 4 or 5. So
Depends on how many injections he gets. And
it looked like a muscle injury to me, though, like the way it kind of went. I guess you can, But yeah, I don't know. That's going to be big because he's a big player. But obviously, Tampa's got a shit ton of depth. They beat the Leafs without Point for the majority of that game, and with Kucherov visibly hurt and playing very limited minutes. So Tampa fucking finds a way. I'm not betting against them. I want Florida to advance. I want Jumbo to win a cup. But my bet's on Tampa 6 or 7.
Endo Mills.
I'm thinking Tampa in 6, Florida in 7.
I'm going to go with Florida in 6. I think over the course of a series, granted, yes, the pressure is on Florida, but I just can't help but think like the pressure on Florida, it's going to be there, but the Lightning, how tired are they going to be?
Yeah, that was.
We asked that before. How tired are they going to be? You're now having to take on, the fucking Florida Panthers without Braden Point. It just, if Tampa wins this, my God,
Yeah.
It's the only way I can view it. Like, my God, if the Lightning manage to win this. Boys, with that, I think we're good. It's our longest show there for a while. We had a little side discussion that was unplanned. Actually, not really unplanned in a sense. I mean, we planned to talk about Ovi's comments in a sense, but the first round is over. The conversation's out there. One of the best first rounds in the history of the playoffs. I agree with that take.
Yeah, I mean, pretty hard to disagree with it. It kind of had a bit of everything. So many game 7s.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of highlights too, man. But yeah, that Tampa Toronto series, man, that was the one that I watched every game of.
Yeah, me too. I mean, when I could, at least, I was flipping back and forth because it was the same night as the Bruins.
Yeah.
But I got to watch a lot of that series, thankfully, because like the 7 o'clock, 7:30 start times that helped out quite a bit. So very much looking forward to it. We will be back, I do believe, this Thursday for yet another show, and we'll talk about the opening couple of games of the series. Of course, there is no hockey tonight, but tomorrow Lightning and Panthers start,
God.
Blues and Avs,
Sucks.
and Wednesday, Rangers, Canes, Oilers, and Flames. So we'll be able to talk about game 1 from each of those 2 series, and we'll see how the action gets underway. For now, though, we'll call it. Endo Mills, what do you got going on?
I get a week off from working for you, so that's great.
Yay.
It's awesome. I've been looking into getting into more streams going on my YouTube and Twitch. I figured, fuck it, I'm just gonna multi-stream. If they get rid of my affiliate on Twitch, who gives a flying fuck? I don't get subs anyway, so what's the point? You can find me on YouTube over at youtube.com/c/bunch of numbers. You should look up Endo Mills. I'm there. I'm present. And,
First name, bunch
Twitch,
of numbers.
yeah, first name, bunch of numbers. That's me. And Twitter, all that. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Sin for the win. What do you got going on, my friend?
Yeah, still obviously on YouTube side of things, Sin for the Win Productions, on Twitter at SinFTWProd, and on Instagram at Paul Cinders, as well as on Spotify now with my single that just dropped, which I'm very excited about, and it's actually doing quite well. I've almost got 100 monthly listeners now on my Spotify, which is fucking wild because I've only put music up for about the last month or so. And
Congrats.
I appreciate everyone who's come to check that out. But yeah, stream my single day by day because I think it's pretty fucking good. And I did it all myself.
There you go. You can find me everywhere, Tougie24, everybody, of course, the streams, the YouTube side of things, all that fun stuff. Again, we will be back on Thursday, where we will respond to the hate that we get over questioning hockey culture. Just 3 soy boys on this podcast of ours thinking people care about our opinions.
Yeah. We need Tyson Nash on this podcast.
Fuck Tyson Nash.
Wait, hold on. I think I still have my thing. Hold on.
Will this part stay in the podcast, or will I cut it? That's the question.
We're going to see how good this fucking thing is for Mendo.
Here we are.
This better be good.
I was going to grab my Tyson Nash doll that I had, but I fucking threw it out. I think either I threw it or Polina threw it out. I'm not sure.
You know, that
Take
was worth
that,
it.
Tyson Nash.
Yep, take that. We think you're not good. How do you feel?
We're nobodies.
How do you feel about criticism on the internet, Tyson? You ever get that? Because we do every day. Probably in a smaller sample size. But then again, he commentates for the Coyotes. Bam! Fuck the Southern markets. NHL. More Canadian teams. Gary Bettman, get out of there and stop fucking ruining the league. I don't even know where we're going with this. Manscaped.com, code Tougie. We love you all. Goodbye.
Solid.